Welcome back to TT Plays. It is almost midnight out here in Colorado, and we've got a ban restricted update. And a little surprised, not too surprised, but basically they moved a couple cards into Category 3, which for them are restricted, and they revealed this Proxy Vault thing. And I think the coolest thing they did is they gave us reasons. So let's go ahead, let's break it down. Again, early reactions, right? This has been out for almost 30 minutes here. So Sword of Avarice has been part of a 2-card linchpin of almost every competitive Crux deck, providing a large degree of card advantage when combined with Ascensions. In turn, this enables very explosive turns that typically take longer to finish, as well as making some feels bad experiences for the opponent. The overall effect can't be done without having both Ascension and Sword of Avarice. Between the two, we believe removing Ascension would have too many side effects for Crux decks compared to just removing Sword of Avarice. I misspoke there. Removing Ascension versus Sword of Avarice. In addition, the power level of Sword of Avarice pushes the limits of how much power we want Regalia cards to have, which currently limits the design space of flicker-type effects, such as Ascension and Zephyr. Okay, so Sword of Avarice is gone. And if you didn't know, basically it was, I play a Spirit Blade Ascension, I draw 2 cards. It was one of the big payoffs for level 3 Merlin, the Kingslayer. And it really synergized well with level 1 Lorraine, getting you that free sword out there so we could tuck the Sword of Seeking and we could grab Sword of Avarice. In my last video where I speculated about this, I talked about maybe them hitting Sword of Seeking. They went a little bit farther and they decided to hit Sword of Avarice, but they did give us a great reason for it. And I do think it's very fair if they're looking at things that take too long. Because Sword of Avarice certainly does take a long amount of time. And if the real reason is Sword of Avarice, then obviously you can kill the problem, not necessarily the enabler. The other thing I talk about is Reckless Conversion. Reckless Conversion has a similar function and effect for arcane decks that result in explosive turns that take a while to complete while making opponents feel bad. We felt we could not dismantle the Sword of Avarice and Ascension engine without also touching Reckless Conversion, since they are analogous across the advanced elements. For this reason, Reckless Conversion is also being banned. All right, sorry, Rye players, you lost a little bit of conversion here. I would say that I think this hits Merlin players harder than it hits Rye players right now. Rye has a lot of ways to pop off that aren't conversion. Conversion is just one of the easiest ones. And if Sword of Avarice goes away, do I expect to see fewer Tithe Proclamations? Yes, I do. And fewer Tithe Proclamations makes Rye's life a whole lot easier. So I think an interesting decision now for these Merlin decks is like, what are you going to do for your end game here? Do you still want 4 swords or 4 ascensions and 3 to 4 crux? Probably not. I think you probably want to up your Ghost of Pendragon count here. And I think you have to evaluate like what the payoff here is, right? The easy alternative to sword when we look is probably Prismatic Edge. Each player reveals all cards in their memory. If it's a fire element, you basically lightning bolt something. If it's a water element, you get to draw a card. If a wind element, your opponent banishes a card from their memory. So obviously in the mirror, this has super diminished results. And your opponent obviously has some ability to play around it, either by not putting cards down or only putting normal cards down. But Prismatic Edge, I really enjoyed playing. It's probably the one that jumps out at me the most. Water decks will obviously still run Erendite for that weird win there. I don't think there's any reason to get the Flame Tongue back. Zephyr's Edge, this isn't really that scary. This is more like a starter sword than a finisher sword here. I mean, Sealed Blade and you hit real hard? I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's not nothing, right? I mean, it's going to be hit for 2. Class bonus will be up to 3 for Merlin. Every other turn, that's going to swing for 5. So cheating that out is obviously way fairer. We could definitely do that. We could do the poor man's version of the combo with the Drawn Blade, in which case we're only replacing the Spirit Blade every turn. We're not getting any benefit from it beyond that, but we certainly could go with that. We could go really poor man's, and we could go with the Great Sword, and we could just like bring the Great Sword in, give an ally a +1. We could do that a couple times, I guess. That feels real bad. Let's not do that one. I don't know that I like any of these other ones that much here. Again, the aggro swords, I guess Sealed Blade's interesting. I can't say that name. Carnwenin is another one, right? You can cheat that in. It's not a materialization if we use Spirit Blade, so you can get that in there. You can just go ahead and swing for that 3. Again, Merlin will bump that up to 5 sometimes. I think I'd rather run the Sealed Blade at that point in time. But I think in my Wind Merlin deck, I'd probably bring in the Prismatic Edge. but it's not nearly the payoff that we were dealing with before. I really think we actually have to kind of like re-examine the card balances there, and that'll be another video there, but probably more of like a, can I win with just wind cards? And then we'll go Kingslayer Crux maybe as a final, again, leaning heavily on the Ghost. There are obviously other good Crux cards, but obviously there's not a great replacement for Sword, and I think that's why if they think that's a problem, I think it's a great thing to hit. As far as conversion, again, like I said, Rye's got a lot of different ways to go about it, and my theory is Sword of Avarice, banned. Tithe Proclamation, arbitrary BS number, half as many of them. Rye players profit. There's just less Tithe procs out there. Losing conversion does hurt, but again, they have a whole lot of different ways to draw a ton of cards if we're playing Rye. So Category 2 is now empty. We will assume that those used to live there. Category 1, they basically added 2 cards, Crystal of Empowerment and Displace. We saw the True Champion Gaming Boys play this a lot. Displace is pretty much a ubiquitous wind card. And they give us some reasons for it down here too. Displace has proved to be too efficient and versatile of a card, allowing both defensive and aggressive use with minimum opportunity cost. This results in Displace performing unconditionally well at all stages of the game. We can compare Displace to other cards that have similar effects, such as Zephyr. Rather than instantly removing a return card, Zephyr uses the press keyword, which results in a slow return of the banished object. Used aggressively, an opposing ally will still come back, awake with a chance to affect the board, while Displace offers no such possibility as it rests. Additionally, while Zephyr can hit more targets, delayed return requires greater planning and decision-making. I don't think that needs a hyphen. Decision-making to avoid a greater drawback. Other interactive wind actions like Favorable Winds and Reclaim are quite limited in an aggressive context, while functioning well in their intended defensive purposes. In general, we would like cards similar to Displace to offer more critical choices and decision points to players by making cards more impactful situationally rather than being as useful in all contexts. And this is what we talked about again, that speculatory banned and restricted thing I think talked about, where if we want to talk about ubiquitousness, where a card becomes a quote unquote auto include, right? Creative Shock, Displace, I can definitely see that coming in. And Crystal kind of covers that as well, and they talk about that here. We've observed the ways players are making use of these cards, and has informed our process in designing cards in the future. That's really cool. Crystal of Empowerment has been used ubiquitously, hey, that's the word I like to use, across almost all deck archetypes, from aggro to control. We feel this sort of effect being too easily and consistently accessible blurs the line between aggro and mid-range strategies in particular. One good example is Banner Knight, which we intended to fit more of a mid-range shell. However, many competitive decks, True Champion Gamings, are using the Crystal of Empowerment to activate the class bonus early, allowing Banner Knight to be used even in aggro decks. So, again, some hits here, and a lot of Merlin decks did run the Crystal to try to cheat the Donkey out early. So, some big hits to Merlin here. That's okay. Some hits to Rye. I think Rye is going to be okay. So, Banner Restricted, again, I didn't think they needed to do anything, but I think these are totally fine, and I really, really, really do appreciate them explaining what they're doing and why they're doing them. All right, let's take a look at Proxia's Vault. And they talk a little bit about the Vault here. I'm not going to read all this because this video is already going a little bit longer than I wanted to. But basically, they're printing cards into the metagame to fix competitive issues. Okay, cool. What did you give us? Well, they gave us the Scepter of Lumina, which is a water card, costs 1. As long as each player controls a water element champion, you may activate this card from your material deck. You still play its cost. Okay. Whenever your champion levels up, deal 4 damage to target champion you don't control. Okay. I mean, obviously we can de-level with Innervate here. The water Innervate's going to draw some cards, and then we can level back up again. So it's definitely an interesting line. It would speed up the mirror. I also do like 5 draw 2 cards. I do like drawing me some cards. So Scepter of Lumina is definitely an interesting card. I think you can cheat this out. You may activate this card from your material deck. And I think the Quicksilver Grail doesn't care about that, right? So you could banish a non-champion card from your material deck face down, and then you may play the banish card. So I am playing the card here, so I have to be the right element. So like my wind deck can't play it, but I'm pretty sure I could cheat out the Scepter via the Grail against non-water element opponents if my plan was to really just like lava axe people to death as I leveled and de-leveled with this weird mid to late range water shell, which I think is cool, worth exploring. I like the Scepter of Lumina. I guess I have to go to Kinko's and print some out. The other card they printed is Stonescale Band. Not like a music band, like a Torque. On enter class bonus, Terra. Discard up to 3 ally cards from your hand and or memory, then draw that many cards. So it is cool that you can use cards out of memory to draw more cards into your hand. I think that's pretty cool. 1 tap until the end of the turn, you may activate ally cards that had fast activation. All right. So late at night, when I close my eyes and I think about the problems Tamer has, never would I have dreamed up this card. I think it's great that they're looking at cards for Terra, and I will withhold some of my judgment until we see how this actually goes down. But the issue is you normally get to Terra and you just have nothing left. It's like this filter effect on here is great theoretically, but by the time I rush to Terra, I'm just like, I don't have anything to even filter with. And 1 tapping to play things quickly, like I don't have any cards left, so this tax is actually really high on me. Now, there are some cute things we can do there, right? You can play the giant bird really quickly. You can play Opus, which I think is cool. You can play Opus in their end step. Then he like immediately kind of awakes on your turn and then 4 cleaves the entire board. So some cool things with the band. I don't think that is what Tamer needed. Like when I talk to my Tamer friends, I don't know, they never kind of describe something like this. And then when I've played around with Tamer like this, again, I think Tamer just has like card advantage issues at its core. And this doesn't like give them a cheating cost. This doesn't speed them up getting to level 3. This just kind of is a great quality of life item at Terra. But again, I think getting to Terra and having like a meaningful grip of cards in your hand is kind of the issue that deck kind of runs into there, right? The example is obviously like Merlin at level 3 draws you a card every other turn. In addition, Merlin was drawing you a whole bunch of cards for Sword of Avarice, right? Terra is getting you to level 3 and letting you play allies though they have fast activation. So, excuse me there. Yeah, so the band, cool. I'll withhold judgment a little bit. I don't think it really fixed the problem. Scepter of Lumina, I'm interested in. I'm definitely going to brew some Innervate decks. I have to look it up. I'm pretty sure that it works with Quicksilver Grail. I want to be 100% sure on that. Again, it's 11:30 at night. It's a little late my time. Rye lost Reckless Conversion. That is obviously a big hit. However, Sword of Avarice went away. I think that's a larger hit to Merlin decks. I expect fewer Tithe Proclamations, which I think increases Rye's stock. So there you go. That's my hot take, scalding internet reaction to the October 16th Banned and Restricted update. And we don't have to wait that long until we get another one. I think that is really interesting. The next BNR is just around the corner. I appreciate them being kind of quick to reevaluate here. They understand that they're kind of in like the early dating stages. You know, they don't want to put a ring on it that quickly. So, and the thing I love the most is all of these explanations for what's going on. We've all played games, card games, other competitive games where they ban things and they don't let us know. But I do really appreciate the Weebs taking the time, explaining their thought process so we can understand what they're doing here. I think that is really, really cool. And again, there's some exclamation down here for the cards here. I'm not going to read it all, right? We're already over the 10-minute mark by quite a bit. So, Banned Restricted, Sword Band, Reckless Band, Scepter of Lumina, cool. Kind of works in the water matchup. T thinks you can Quicksilver Grail it in. You can use it all the time. We'll see if that's accurate. Stonescale Band, I am dubious of. But hey, I would love to see it work. I would love to see more Tamers out there. So let me know what you think of the Banned and Restricted. You can obviously leave comments here. You can talk to me on Twitter. You can talk to me on Facebook. Let me know if you think this is them balancing it the way they see it or listening to what everyone is kind of talking about and is bothering them. Let me know if this is what you expected. And thank you so much for watching. I will be on this True Champion Gaming stream. It's really early in the morning for me. I don't anticipate doing well, but I'm really happy they invited me to it. That is going to be the 16th of October. I think I'm on at 9 Eastern time. So hey, if you see this and it's before then, jump over to True Champion Gaming. You can find me streaming some new deck that they brewed up. I have no idea what they're going to make for me, but I am thrilled to be playing more Grand Archive. So until next time, everyone, cheers and happy gaming.